that I pay for called Mystery Magic Egypt. It's a private video series, and it gets pretty deep into ancient Egyptian mythology, and it gets pretty deep into the Egyptian mysteries, school system, and some of the esoteric teachings. Okay, and the reason I made this video because I think maybe one or two of you guys out there have had the same thoughts as me over the past couple of years about the connection between these two books. But the problem is that I don't read hieroglyphics, and I don't I've never sat and just gone through any popular interpretation of the Egyptian Book of the Dead. Okay, so a lot of it was just kind of what I suspected about the book, what I heard about the funerary practices. You know, what's up, let it be, and namaste, everybody. As always, every moment, every second, namaste. That's all there is. But as I was watching this Egyptian mythology book, this mystery school, this discourse about it. It's not Zachariah Sitchin. It's not him. It's another guy. He's a very popular Egyptologist. He's one of the ones that gets more into the esoteric. He's probably more controversial because he gets into that stuff. And I do recommend the series, Mystery Magic Egypt, I think it's called. And I think it's going to cost you a little bit of money, of course. Every video I watch it cost me like $9 or $10. I think I had to pay 20, $30 for the whole series that was like 4 or 5. But it's a good series, man. It's a good series. I don't make any money for telling you this. I don't work for the company. I'm just telling you, if you want sources of some of this more esoteric knowledge without digging through 100 books to get it, um, and you're already familiar with some of the history of ancient Egypt and their mystery schools. A lot of my information came from the book Hidden Legacy, Stolen Legacy. But at any rate, um, the the authors and the speakers in that movie basically painted a picture of the Egyptian funerary practices that are very similar to what happens in Tibet when they utilize their knowledge of the afterlife in their Tibetan Book of the Dead. And so I think the fact that anybody, and they said in the series several times, they said, make comparisons to the Tibetan book. Okay. They just came out and said, yeah, this is very similar to what happens in Tibet. And I was like, yeah, I bet it is. Because I suspected the whole time. I mean, there's one truth. So why wouldn't there be a connection, right, between the two books? Now, if you really look at the psychology of this, if you will, then it's really based on your culture and your culture's belief systems and theology to some degree, to a high degree, what this so-called afterlife experience is going to be like. Okay. So what the Egyptians wrote, the boats coming and, the Egyptian gods leading you over to the other side. And they don't call them wrathful deities, but they have gatekeepers and they'll ask you riddles. And if you don't answer the riddle properly, you know, I don't know, they send you to oblivion. you know, the the point of awareness that you have developed up to that point, maybe I don't know what happens to it. You get recycled, and it was funny because when I was younger, I always said, yeah, maybe in the afterlife, if you're pretty bad, maybe you just get recycled. What do we do with trash in this life? We recycle trash. And I was kind of just being like, real, just down to earth and very pragmatic about my beliefs about the afterlife. And it's funny that similar things are being said now as I'm getting more and more into what actually is in the Book of the Dead. Like, you know, you get recycled, and I don't know if that correlates with the Tibetan belief in reincarnation in the lower realms. I suspect maybe you would have a full retention of what we call the personality in any of these levels of awareness and consciousness. Okay, so I can't see how one of the worst ones to be in would give you access to everything that you had in the previous, life or whatever. Most likely it'd be a very scary experience to get sent to the lower realms. But yeah, I think as you start studying the Book of the Dead, don't get so. My recommendation is the Tibet. I mean, not the Egyptian book. Don't get so caught up in the symbols as being absolutes. Okay, that was one of the things that got me stuck for a couple of years, why I didn't really advance. Okay, in my understandings of the comparison of the two books. When you get past the symbols, okay, and you start understanding that everything that we experience in the psychological, mental, physical realms influences our experience, period, in this reality. Okay. It's not going to be, put it like this one way. Let's just put it another way. God slash Mother Nature slash ultimate reality is not going to discount the work that you've done with your mind, with your perception, okay, your wisdom, where it's at whatever level. That's just not how I see it. That doesn't make any sense to me. Okay, why would nature record every single thing in the form of entropy, so to speak? And then suddenly, in this other level of existence, whatever you want to call it, all that, it doesn't matter what we did before. And yet, it's still everything we teach in religion is everything you do matters. Every deed, every action, every thought. Jesus said, if you think of a sin, you've sinned. So that was already magnified and brought into the realm of psychology and mind. Even in the most you can take the most literalist in Christianity, and they can't deny that. They can't deny that it was said in the New Testament that if you think of a sin, you've sinned. Okay, so that brought it from the realm of I got to actually go commit the sin with my physical hands before God's going to hold it against me. No, 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 no. He's holding it against you when it streams across your stream of consciousness. Okay, that fact alone is just I can't even express the importance of that understanding. But at any rate, um, the actual symbols, with the Egyptians, and yeah, they don't correlate exactly. They don't call the guys that are the gatekeepers the wrathful deities, okay, like they do in the Tibetan literature. But they definitely talk about gatekeepers and things you have to surmount when you leave this life. And I think sometimes people do things only for secondary gain. And that's the main motivation behind a lot of religions. Is I think for some people it's a glorified insurance policy. Okay, and so when you get into these really esoteric teachings that are probably on some levels encoded in our fraternities, sororities, masonry, obviously the Egyptian system. Then you get into the systems outright that are, I guess, philosophical slash religious, like the Tibetan systems, and you start making connections. Okay, and to make those connections, you have to be extremely open minded, and you have to understand that the ancients um, integrated everything. They integrated geometry, astronomy, astrology, mathematics, architecture, rhetoric. All these things were part of the path of development as a human being, which they considered a spiritual path. You know, was it Aristotle or was it Socrates? What was hard? Pythagoras, had to prepare 20 years before he was allowed to enter these schools. So like, what are they teaching? Why such a rigorous course of study? You can become a physician in 8 years in America. If you don't count high school, because if you count high school, it's 20 years. Okay. Is there a correlation there? I don't know. No idea. And I don't know at what age Pythagoras started studying to get admitted to those schools. Was he an older man and then did another 20 years? I'm not sure. And then I guess another period of time, years of study immersed in this system that apparently was quite rigorous. You have to ask yourself, why was it such a rigorous course of study? Okay, and the guys in the movie even commented that maybe it's because, in my belief, based on my studies of Tibetan Buddhism and yoga, is that to leave, if I can use another Tibetan yogi's words, to leave an indelible imprint on your mind stream that will help you in the next level of consciousness, life, the afterlife. You have to do, what's the word I could use? Amazing things, uh, things that would be extreme concentration, extreme focus, extreme transitions of the heart. Okay, from what you would consider typical. You know, that, I'm a little nice. I give a little money. I do X, Y, Z. Yeah, you know, you ain't breaking no sweat though. See, and so this other level of perception, are you even reaching the tip of the iceberg? Okay, because in a lot of cultures, a lot of systems, okay, to not be able to master yourself even in the dreaming state is considered uh, a sign that you are not ready. Okay, to navigate that next level, that you have a lot more preparation, and it's like hmm, makes sense to me, especially since we use dream analysis in modern psychology, right, as a tool. So I don't want to get too heavy on this. I just hadn't done a haps in a while, and they were queuing me up saying, you know, by time for you to do another one, and this topic was on my mind already, so I figured I'd drop a gem for somebody else that maybe will use it. So I say maybe look at both books, maybe check out that series, start making the correlations, so you can start really looking at your practices as far as on the spiritual path. Just as for human development. Period. This is really about just human development. I don't really like separating academic development from spiritual development. I think that's short-sighted. I think it's a small-minded person that does that. But ignorance is the cause of suffering in many spiritual systems, and I believe this. Ignorance and, let's say, selfishness. If I had to put them in two big categories: short-sightedness, selfishness, and you know ego-based perceptions and approach towards reality. This is what holds us back. So the fact that we're even talking about this 2021, the knowledge that was only given to kings and queens, there's something there. If you don't want to look at it, that's cool. I am for the rest of my life. I'm gonna dive as deep into that rabbit hole as I possibly humanly can. Add me on Haps. All right, got you. Brooklyn. Let's see. I'm about to add you. Are we friends on Periscope, Brooklyn? I think we are, right? I'm gonna add you though. I got you now. I can see you in the stream, so because I'm pushing on this and it won't let me pop you up. But whenever I sign off, I'll look you up and add you. But I got you, man. Yeah, anybody who's afraid of knowledge, any knowledge, you gotta question yourself. Like, what's the source of that fear? What's the source of that fear? Like, is that justified? Right? Are God's children sent here to master to master a fear-based path where certain things are, oh my, I'm afraid of that. Oh, I don't think so. I think it's a lot about mastering itself. So fear becomes what it really is, nothing, just empty roars, empty growls with no real teeth behind them. Right? Any teeth behind them are given by us. And this is what the Egyptians probably and the Tibetans were trying to tell us about the afterlife. And like, if you come up short in that at that point of your existence, that means you were coming up short here right now. Okay, so it puts a whole different spin on going to heaven and saved by grace and all this other stuff. It's like, well, you know, I don't know what saved by grace means. To me, that means maybe through the compassion of some other being who's already ascended, maybe they'll guide you to a soft landing If you've done some type of work, okay. I mean, which basically means I think you probably couldn't just be a straight outright just horrible person and expect grace is going to save you. Okay, I don't believe that. I don't believe that. I don't. I don't care if they dip you in the water. I don't care if you profess, God or His Son or anybody else. I don't care about that as far as that alone being a source of salvation, because I don't believe that. Because if I believe that, it would mean that all the efforts that the saints and the bodhisattvas and the Buddhas make to develop themselves, and the ancient Egyptian priests, some of them probably did it for altruistic means. I mean, altruistic purposes, not just because they wanted to be royalty in this life and the next life. It might have been for altruistic reasons. Um, that will mean that doesn't really matter. You can just do what you want. Do what you want. Don't develop wisdom. Don't develop compassion. Don't develop your mind to the highest level possible. And there's gonna be put it like this: the only way that will make any sense to me is if this time span we call eternity is long enough that the people that are really, really not going to get it, but they try on any level at all, will still in a time span that goes through infinity, still be part of the family on the other side. Okay, that's how I put grace into the equation. In other words, the plan is so holistic and so inclusive that you can be the slowest turtle in the pack. You can be the last turtle in existence, and you're still going to cross the finish line. For me, that's what grace is. Okay, doesn't mean you ain't gotta do no work. Doesn't mean you don't have to develop yourself as a human being. Doesn't mean that there's not a science to how God, put this thing together, and that it doesn't mean that we shouldn't uh, develop ourselves along the lines of that science, that system. Ritual is a tool, prayer is a tool, meditation is a tool, tantric visualization is a tool. Okay, loving your brother as yourself, insight that develops and blossoms into absolute truth at some point. Many paths leading to the same place, but it seems to be a lot of similarities in those paths as far as the ultimate requirement for sacrifice, wisdom, compassion, and love is not debatable. And that's my great measuring stick, litmus test for a path. If it includes those things, and that's the ultimate, you know, expression of the path, then I'm like, that's something that is, you know, it's one of the streams that lead to the bigger stream that leads to the ultimate realization. Just a different path, uh, because obviously in this universe we have so many different expressions of life and personalities and emotions and personality types and artistic expression. Rest in peace, Chick Corea. Rest in peace, brother. He passed away a couple days ago. One of my favorite jazz pianists. And some of y'all know that I spent a portion of my life studying that instrument and that style of music. And I got a lot of respect and love for Chick, even though I never met him. um, he left a lot for us, and that's what wisdom and compassion does. The resonance from what is done reverberates far beyond when we're here in the physical form, and the people that we impact and touch. It goes far beyond just the 3 score and 10 that we're here. It reverberates into eternity, actually, forever. So stay up, man. I'm gonna keep this one short. Till next time. I got you, Brooklyn. When I come back on, I'll figure out how to